Democrats on the Hill pitching a controversial tax plan that entails big tax breaks for the middle class while implementing new fees on Wall Street and other top earners. A wealth transfer, if you will. With more on this, Patrick Gleason, Government Affairs Director for Americans for Tax Reform. Thanks for coming on the show, Patrick. So let's break this down a little bit. And primarily, I'm interested in this $2,000 break for middle class families. This is just free money, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he has a number of provisions in there that want to give money to what they say is the middle class. The problem is a lot of these are actually spending increases and not tax cuts because they will go to a portion of the population that does not have an income tax liability. So those are actually spending increases and not tax cuts. And actually when this is in legislative format and scored by the Joint Committee on Taxation, which scores these bills, they will score this as a spending increase. So
all right, let me stop you there because that's a lot to digest in one go. I think you make a really good point, though. You know, look, this is just free going to people, $2,000 for families, $1,000 for individuals. There's also a bonus for people who save money, $250 for people who save $500 a year. What? Shouldn't we be doing that on our own? Why aren't we doing that on our own? How do they say they're going to pay for all this?
Yeah, well, and that's the most problematic portion of this proposal, and it's why the bill is dead on arrival in this Republican-controlled Congress. So the two key ways in which Congressman Van Hollen wants to pay for this, one is with a financial transactions tax. Now, they sell this as a tax on the rich. I think some Dems on the Hill have been calling it a fat cat's tax. Well, point of fact, this tax will hit every American that has a bank account, an IRA, and a college savings plan, just to name a few. So,
hang on, because I think that's critical. They're calling it a high roller tax, but you say it's going to hit far more people. Why? What actually are they taxing here?
Yeah, well, it's actually a regressive tax. It hurts the lowest incomes much higher than the highest incomes. And so, again, everyone who has a bank account, everyone who has an IRA, everyone who has a college savings plan, which is the vast majority of Americans, are going to bear the burden of this tax. So this is not a tax on the rich. This is a tax on most Americans.
Patrick, pardon me. Does this mean that every time I buy or sell a stock, every time I take money out of my savings account, that I'm going to have to pay some kind of levy, some kind of fee or tax?
It absolutely does. And actually, I think it's worth pointing out that European Union has tried to institute such a financial transaction tax for the past several years. And you know what? President Obama and his White House have opposed it because they say compliance costs will be too great and it'll be too hard to enforce. So, you know what? I think that applies just as much here. So I don't get the divide between opposing it there and possibly being open to it here, at least Dems on the Hill.
So Congressman Chris Van Hollen put this thing forward. And I have to tell you, this sounds like nonsense to me. Just sheer nonsense. This is the most obvious wealth transfer I've seen in a long time. You rich people, you shouldn't have that money. We're going to give it to other folks. Does it strike you the same way?
It does, but the way to look at this, like I said, it's dead on arrival. He knows this. Congressman Van Hollen knows this. What it does is, this is just political posturing, trying to put Republicans in a tough spot, but they know how to respond to this. I mean, Congressman Paul Ryan came out today and said this is nonsense. In fact, what this would do, Congressman Van Hollen's proposal, should it pass, which it won't, but say it did, this would actually hurt the prospects to get comprehensive tax reform done down the line, because the other ways he wants to pay for it, which are taking away credits and deductions from companies and high earners, okay, you want to talk about that, fine, but that should be talked about in the context of base broadening, comprehensive tax reform that reduces rates for all. What we have here today from Congressman Hollen is really just political posturing, and it's a PR stunt is what it is.
PR stunt. Patrick, thanks for coming on.